Whoa! Whoa! Look at those huge, thick, alluring numbers! Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. JC here with my first video on Action Taimanin. Since this is another slow month for this Gaia RPG, I decided to start covering other games, and my first pick was Action Taimanin. And before you ask, nope, I won't stop covering this Gaia RPG. That's still my main focus. By the time you're watching this, Astaroth's limited pack will have released, and if Gremory doesn't decide to nerf the weapon and supporter for some reason, then this evolution and tips should be useful for you. But before we start, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Let's start by checking what the supporter and weapon do. Dark Sun Astaroth is a green supporter with a passive effect that reduces damage from range attack by 30% and increases damage dealt by red characters by 30% at S level 5. Her active, Majestic, has a passive effect which increases damage dealt with normal attacks to enemies with debuffs by 35%. And the active itself makes Flamer Up from the ground, which deals 960% damage, knocks up enemies, and gives super armor for 5 seconds when the supporter is max awakened. Damage reduction on the first passive is limited to range attacks, but since Astaroth is a ranged character, that shouldn't be a problem. The damage increase on the other hand has an easy condition to fulfill, which allow you to use Yukikase, Murasaki, Oboro, Asuka, Rin, Aneros, and Shizuru with this supporter. Among all red characters available right now, Yukikase is probably the only one who can take full advantage of both effects, since she's also a ranged character. Then we have the active. The passive on the active is very versatile because it activates with any debuff. Murasaki, Oboro, Rin, Aneros, and Shizuru are able to take advantage of this effect. Of course, you can use it with other characters that inflict debuffs, like Asagi, but you'll be missing out on the damage boost of the main passive, because they are not red characters. Last, let's analyze the attack on the active. It seems to me a little bit underwhelming, as judging by the PV, it has a very short area of effect, but the super armor makes up for it. Characters like Yukikase and Rin like this kind of buff. Now it's time to talk about the wicked Nifrinka, Astaroth's special weapon. This weapon has perfect synergy with her supporter, as its effect reads: Serpent Blaze has a 100% chance of terrorizing the target, increases damage dealt to the target by 6% depending on the number of debuff terror stacks. Serpent Blaze is Astaroth's all-green skill. This is a homing ball that bounces to nearby enemies, and if you use an all-green build, it also fires 2 extra balls. Terror counts as a debuff, which procs the passive effect of Majesty, increasing the damage of basic attacks. And for those who don't know, Astaroth's basic attacks are a flamethrower or a barrage of fireballs, depending on what skill you use. And this is her main appeal, since you can easily deal a lot of damage to all enemies in front of you. Serpent Blaze activates while performing the basic attack, so it has perfect synergy with Astaroth's playstyle. The only problem with this weapon is that Astaroth's attacks become too strong. If you gain 6% more damage per stack of terror, then you need enemies to be alive to increase your damage, since a single unit can have multiple stacks of the same buff or debuff, which means you won't be seeing insane damage on event stages and daily missions, since enemies will die instantly. But you'll be able to see how much stronger you become on tower and the new VR mode, since enemies there have huge amounts of HP. Since both the weapon and the supporter focus on grit so much, let's talk about some supporters you can do along with Dark Sun Astaroth. Starting with the crit route, we have Kaoru with a nice critical damage boost. Of course, if you are going to tackle challenging content, Akane is your go-to, with a damage increase to all enemies, and another boost to critical damage against bosses after landing a crit. She's a must-have for all your green builds. Tsuruga is a perfect pick if you want to increase both critical rates and critical damage. Corporate Warrior Ingrid is another excellent supporter that you can use next to Dark Sun Astaroth, especially for challenging content, but due to its limited status, most players may not have this one. Yuno is another viable option. In exchange for your particles, you can increase your critical rate, or if you're having trouble with the stage, you can place her on your main slot to use her invincibility. To finish with crit supporters, we have Tokiko. Unfortunately, this supporter's passive is only effective on PvP, which means you'll have to use it on the main slot, and you'll also be missing out on Majesty's passive, but in exchange, you'll get a huge crit buff and guaranteed crits. For challenging stages with human enemies, Punisher Yukikase is an excellent choice, thanks to her damage reduction and her chance to increase damage on normal attacks. Oddly enough, Omiya Mizuki is another supporter you can use on niche stages. She has a damage increase to machine enemies and a damage reduction from range attacks, which pairs well with Dark Sun Astaroth. Last, we have probably one of the best supporters you can use with Astaroth, Celestial Fox Sora. This gives a damage boost to range attacks and has a chance to remove buffs from enemies. If you do have her, depending on the S level of your Dark Sun Astaroth and Celestial Fox Sora, you may pick one or the other, since they both give a very substantial damage boost with her active's passive. To finish, I'll leave you with some footage of my Astaroth beating Tower, or something along the lines of that. See ya!